After a prolonged and severe drought, dark clouds begin to drift across the sky. Before long, heavy rains pour down ceaselessly, wringing out the very last drops of their moisture. The clouds leave the entire Nuwara region thoroughly drenched. Countless streams, both large and small, spring from the mountains and high grounds to join the rivers and brooks flowing toward the sea. The climate of Sri Lanka is largely governed by the monsoons, with the most profound impacts occurring in the dry zone. Nature here is benevolent, though occasionally cruel. The northeast monsoon inundates the parched, cracked earth with a massive deluge. But this lasts only a brief moment. The rains cease, and the sun shines brilliantly once more. The entire landscape bursts into vibrant green. Yet, this too is fleeting. Then returns the ceaseless drought, stretching on for long, weary months. Although the rains have ceased, the mountains and highlands, dense with vegetation, still hold on to the water. For a brief while longer, this water drifts slowly along narrow rivulets, seeking out the tributaries. These slender streams, so quiet now, become violent torrents during the rainy season. But now, in the dry zone, water is the one thing that decides whether people survive or fade away. If there were only a way to carefully harvest and hold the immense deluge brought in by the northeast monsoon winds, in that case, we would gain the chance to make this rich soil productive across the whole year, not merely during the wet months. For this, our ancestors discovered an ingenious method, constructing reservoirs by building dams across the primary waterways mentioned earlier. By retaining the water for longer periods, they gained the opportunity to use it for cultivation during the dry season. Farming villages emerged, centered around the tanks created in this way. Thus, they were known as village tanks. By damming the watercourse at several points as it flowed downstream, these rural tanks were built at intervals throughout the landscape. Mapping rural tanks in a specific area, Professor Manduma Bandara observed a distinct pattern. Upon closer examination, he discovered that this remarkable formation was repeated in the positioning of tanks across other regions of the country as well. If plotted on a map, it resembles an image where individual tanks appear to hang one after another from top to bottom, connected by large and small waterways. The term cascade was used to define this specific drainage pattern. In Sri Lanka, a cascade is an ecosystem consisting of a group of interconnected tanks, built by damming a natural stream that flows from the top to the bottom of a small valley. What happens here is that the rainwater which flows across the land during the short monsoon season is captured and retained. This transforms the entire region into a fertile landscape where water remains available throughout the year. Currently, there are approximately 14,000 functioning small rural tanks in Sri Lanka. Of these, about 80% exist as part of cascade systems. To date, 1,166 such cascade systems have been identified. Based on the geographical layout of Sri Lanka, Three main tank cascade system zones can be identified. They are the North Central Zone, the Northwestern Zone, and the Ruhunu Zone. 90% of all cascade systems are located within these three zones. The primary water sources that supply a cascade system originate from a densely vegetated highland. This serves as the catchment area of the cascade system. As heavy rains fall, the water collecting here creates channels and flows towards lower ground. Even after the rain ceases, this flow does not dry up immediately. Where there is forest cover, the land is able to retain the moisture absorbed during the rainy season for a prolonged period. Trickling streams flowing through various obstacles merge one by one, joining the larger watercourses carved out by the massive torrents of the rainy season. These currents, drifting slowly downwards, are forced to pool in certain places, unable to flow further due to natural barriers like small hills and rock ridges. These naturally formed reservoirs, both large and small, are often referred to as kuluvau. They remain untouched by human use and function as an integral part of the natural forest. These tanks enhance the biodiversity of the environment, provide food and habitats for wildlife. By retaining silt and sediment at the bottom, they release only the clear surface water to the lands below. The path of these waterways is determined by the topographical features of the landscape. The path of these waterways is determined by the topographical features of the landscape. It is by damming these waterways flowing in various directions at suitable locations that humans constructed the tanks. The ancients constructed these tanks based on scientific ecological principles. Every single component of the tank possessed its own specific function dedicated to maintaining the sustainability of the reservoir. Water flowing from the upper catchment was not permitted to enter the reservoir directly. By intercepting these streams near the tank, small ponds known as godavala were created. Consequently, water would remain here for a period, flowing into the main tank only very gradually. The vegetation cover, consisting of tall trees, situated between the tank's spill level and the high flood level, is known as the Gasgommana. This barrier minimizes the evaporation of tank water caused by dry winds. However, it serves as more than just a windbreak. Trees with dense root systems such as kumuk, viul and thimiri are found here. These roots act as a filter for impurities in the water flowing in from upstream. Furthermore, during the rainy season, these root mats function as breeding grounds for fish. The strip of land located immediately below the tank bund is known as the Batticaloa. Its primary function is to trap and contain the salinity seeping from the tank. The biodiversity here is even richer than that of a natural forest, hosting a greater variety of plant species. Plants such as kangkung, water spinach, kohila, lassia and haberella alocasia found in the Yatruvala and marshes of the Batticaloa, along with sedges such as tunhiria and galahe, rapidly absorb heavy metals. This enables the efficient removal of substances harmful to the environment from the ecosystem. In addition to these, sorowa, spillways and canal networks are all integral components of a grand design. Functioning in unison for centuries, they not only nourished the paddy fields, wildlife and humans, but also succeeded in sustaining the ecological balance of the environment. It is through these canals that water is supplied to cultivate the paddy fields situated below the tank. On the other hand, these very canals are also responsible for carrying the tank's water to another reservoir or waterway located further downstream. The water from the main canal branches off into smaller and smaller rivulets. flowing out to provide the lifeblood necessary for the crops. Look, this is just like the network of veins and vessels carrying blood throughout our own bodies. The water remaining after cultivation collects in a canal that the villagers call the Kurunegala. This too joins the water currents flowing further down the Cascade system. Simply put, what happens here is the repeated reuse of both the excess water exiting a tank and the water already utilized for agriculture. Collecting in another tank downstream, this water fills yet another farmland and settlement with life. In this manner, repeatedly consumed and repeatedly purified, the water that has enriched countless fields through its succession of tanks finally merges with a major river flowing towards the ocean. It is this entire ecosystem, encompassing interconnected reservoirs and waterways, that we call a cascade. Because it functions as a unified system, it is able to sustain life within the tanks even during times of drought. Similarly, during floods, it possesses the power to tame massive volumes of water. Long before the world began to speak of sustainability, this is how the ancestors of Sri Lanka had already mastered the art of resilience. Due to the water retaining within the cascade, the groundwater table of the land rises. The water in natural springs is also preserved for a longer duration. As a result, soil microorganisms become abundant. These microbes decompose the plant and animal matter added to the soil, thereby enriching the land. In the past, villages were established centered around individual tanks. This is the reason why the names of many ancient villages in the Rajarata region are derived from the names of reservoirs. Each tank was akin to the heart of the village. The reservoir, culture, rituals and agriculture were inextricably bound together. The villagers harbored a deep sense of reverence for the tank. They were deeply concerned about its sustainable existence. Thus, whether consciously or unconsciously, they effectively ensured the security of the cascade system to which they belonged. However, although we allowed the value of this system to fade from memory in later times, the attention of the entire world is now beginning to focus on the cascade system once again.
අපට ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන් විදියට ආඩම්බර යුතු කරුණක් නම් 2017 වර්ෂයේදී එක්සත් ජාතීන්ගේ ආහාර හා කෘෂිකර්ම සංවිධානය මගින් අපි ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ එල්ලංගා පද්ධතිය ලෝක උරුමයක් විදියට පත් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ කියන්නේ අපි සියලු දෙනාටම ආඩම්බර වෙන්න ඕනේ. මේක ලෝකේ හඳුනා ගන්න පුළුවන් විශේෂ පරිසර පද්ධතියක් නිසා තමයි. ඒ කියන්නේ පරිසරයයි ජීවීන් හා ශාක හා සත්ත්ව අතර හොඳ සහසම්බන්ධතාවයක් තියෙන පරිසර පද්ධතියක් විදියට හඳුනාගෙන මේක ලෝක උරුමයක් බවට පත් කරලා තියෙනවා.
At present, many development activities take place while posing a threat and a challenge to the natural ecosystem. Yet, the cascade stands as a magnificent masterpiece of Sri Lanka's hydraulic civilization, one that exists in perfect harmony with nature. However, as a result of long-term neglect, the cascade has slipped away, even fading from our collective memory. But today, as the world confronts climate change and environmental crises, humanity is compelled to turn back and look at this system once again. The cascade is not merely a historical tale. It is a vision for the future, a reminder that when we live with nature, instead of fighting it, life continues to flow without end.